insisted I get the phone back. Despite policy, my daughter Olivia is 16 and got her phone confiscated 3 days into the new term for watching videos during class. I'd warned her the next time this happened, I was taking the smartphone and giving her an old flip phone with no internet. So when the school called, I said I'd pick it up that afternoon. The secretary tells me there's a new policy. First offense, they keep it 2 weeks. Second offense, 3 weeks. I'm thinking, are you serious? She repeats it like she's reading a script. I tell her I'll be there in 20 minutes. I get to the office and ask for the phone. The secretary, Diane, explains the policy again. I stay calm and say, I paid $400 for that phone. It has my daughter's personal information on it. And I'm not leaving it here for 2 weeks. What if it gets lost or broken? I know they lost a kid's phone last year, because my coworker went through the same thing. She calls the vice principal. Mr. Howard comes out, shakes my hand, repeats the exact same policy. I tell him I'm the parent. I bought it, I'm taking it. He says the policy applies to everyone. I ask if I signed anything agreeing to this. He mentions the student handbook from August. I tell him I never signed it. And you can't keep someone's property without permission. He's getting annoyed. Says I can take it up with the school board. I sit down in one of those plastic chairs and say, I'll wait right here. He asks what I'm waiting for. I say my daughter's phone. Says that's not happening. I say then I'm staying. He tells me I can't just sit here. I pull out my phone and say, I'm not causing problems, just waiting. He goes to his office. I sit there for almost 2 hours. Students walk by staring. I don't move. The principal, Mrs. Callahan, finally comes out. She's this stern woman I've barely spoken to. She says I need to leave or she'll call the police. I look at her and say go ahead. I'll save you the trouble and report stolen property myself. Her expression shifts. She says, the phone isn't stolen. It's confiscated. Per policy. I say, you're holding my property. After I repeatedly asked for it back. That's theft. He stares at me for 10 seconds. Then says fine. Follow me. We go to Mr. Howard's office. He's got the phone in a plastic bag with Olivia's name on it. In his desk drawer. But before handing it over, Mrs. Callahan closes the door and says, they need to discuss something first. My stomach drops. She tells me when they took the phone, it was on. My stomach drops. She tells me when they took the phone, it was on. The voice memo app, Mrs. Callahan finished, her eyes drilling into mine. Recording. It had been running for 45 minutes. I frowned, the adrenaline in my veins cooling into confusion. So, she forgot to turn it off. That doesn't give you the right to hold it for 2 weeks. Mr. Howard, Callahan nodded to the vice principal. Howard looked uncomfortable. He was a big guy, usually loud, but he looked small in his chair. He opened the drawer and slid the plastic bag across the laminate desk. She wasn't watching videos, sir. She was taping a private meeting I was having in my office with the district athletic director. She left the phone on the bookshelf outside my open door, hidden behind a trophy. I looked at the phone in the bag. The screen was dark. That's a serious accusation, I said, my voice steady, though my mind was racing. Olivia was a good kid, but she was 16. 16-year-olds did stupid things. What is she accused of? Espionage. Violation of privacy laws, Callahan snapped. Wiretapping, potentially. We are keeping the phone not as punishment, but as evidence pending an expulsion hearing. Expulsion. I laughed, a harsh barking sound. For a voice memo? Give me the phone. We can't, Howard said. I am taking my property, I said, standing up. I reached for the bag. Howard's hand slammed down on top of it. For a second, it was just physical intimidation. 2 grown men leaning over a cheap desk. If you take that, Callahan said, her voice dropping to a whisper, you are tampering with evidence in a criminal investigation. Do you want Olivia to leave here in handcuffs, or do you want to handle this like a family matter? I looked at Howard. He was sweating. It was 68 degrees in the office, and beads of perspiration were gathering on his upper lip. He wasn't angry, he was terrified. That was the tell. Call the police, I said softly. Callahan blinked. Excuse me. Call them. Right now. If my daughter committed a crime, let's get the officers in here. I'll wait. But if you call them, I'm going to have them listen to that recording right here, in front of all of us, so we know exactly what charges to file. I watched the color drain from Howard's face. He looked at Callahan. A silent communication passed between them. A panic frequency only bureaucrats could hear. That won't be necessary, Callahan said, her posture stiffening. We don't want to ruin a young girl's future. Good, I said. I ripped the bag from under Howard's hand. I'm taking this. And Olivia is done at this school as of this second. I didn't wait for a response. I walked out. I marched through the outer office, past Diane the secretary who refused to make eye contact, and out into the blinding afternoon sun. I didn't go to my car immediately. I walked around the corner of the gym, out of sight of the security cameras. My hands were shaking. I pulled the phone out of the bag. I knew the passcode. Olivia thought she was slick, changing it every month, but I paid the bill. And the deal was I always had the code. 1-9-8-9. Taylor Swift's birth year. I unlocked it. I went to voice memos. There was one new recording at the top. New recording 14. Timestamp. 10:15 a.m. today. Duration, 47 minutes. I pressed play. At first, it was just rustling. Then the sound of a door opening. Then Howard's voice clear as a bell. Don't care about the structural report, Dave. If we close the bleachers, we lose the homecoming revenue. The district needs that cash flow. A second voice deeper. It's not just the bleachers, Jim. It's the foundation of the field house. If you pack 2,000 kids in there, and that support beam gives. Just sign off on the safety inspection, Howard's voice snarled. We have the grant money coming in for the technology upgrade. I'll cut you a check for 20 grand as a consulting fee from that fund. Nobody looks at the tech grants. They're a black hole. I froze. The audio continued. They weren't just ignoring safety. They were embezzling grant money meant for computers to pay off inspectors to ignore a collapsing stadium. I stopped the recording. I looked up at the brick building of Northwood High. It wasn't a school anymore. It was a crime scene. And my daughter wasn't a troublemaker. She was a whistleblower. I picked Olivia up from the curb 3 blocks away. She wouldn't let me pick her up at the front gate anymore. She hopped into the passenger seat, her knees bouncing with nervous energy. She looked at me, then at the center console where her smartphone sat. You got it, she breathed. I got it. Are you mad? I put the car in drive. We need to talk, Liv. But not here. I drove us to a diner 2 towns over. I ordered us coffee and fries. I put the phone on the table between us. I listened to it, I said. Olivia's face went pale. She pulled her hoodie up, shrinking into the booth. Dad, I didn't mean to. You didn't mean to catch the vice principal committing a felony? I asked quietly. Her eyes snapped up to mine. You believe me? I heard it, Liv. The bleachers. The tech grant money. She let out a breath she seemed to have been holding for 3 days. Tears welled up in her eyes. Mr. Howard, he's been weird all year. He bought a new boat. He's always yelling at the maintenance guys. I heard him talking to the AD last week, but I didn't have proof. So I left my phone. That was dangerous, Olivia. I know. But Dad, remember Tyler? The kid who lost his phone last year. Yeah. He didn't lose it. He recorded Howard slapping a student in the locker room. They took his phone, kept it for 3 weeks, and when he got it back, it was wiped. Factory reset. They told his parents it was a software glitch. My grip tightened on my coffee mug until my knuckles turned white. That's why you were watching videos in class? To get caught? No, I actually was watching videos, she admitted, a small smile ghosting her lips. But when Howard called me out, I saw my chance to leave the phone near his office door while he was distracted. I just didn't think they'd keep it this long. They were trying to figure out if you had it backed up, I realized. They were keeping it to sweat you out. Dad, what do we do? She looked at the smartphone. If I go back there? You aren't going back there, I said. And we aren't keeping this on the phone. I took the smartphone. I engaged the flip phone protocol. But not the way I had threatened. I took out her SIM card and put it into the old Nokia flip phone I'd brought with me. Keep this on you, I said. Only call me or Mom. No text to friends. No social media. We're going dark. What about the smartphone? That, I said, sliding it into my pocket, is our insurance policy. The harassment started that night. It began with an email from the school district. Notice of suspension pending investigation into cyberbullying and illicit recording. They were trying to get ahead of the narrative. If they painted Olivia as a delinquent, nobody would believe the tape. Then came the phone calls. Unknown numbers. Dead silence on the other end. At 11 p.m., a police cruiser rolled slowly past our house. It paused at the end of the driveway, spotlight sweeping across our front windows, then drove off. It was a small town. Howard played golf with the sheriff. I knew that. I sat in the dark living room, the smartphone plugged into my laptop. I was copying the file to 3 different hard drives and a cloud server. My wife Sarah came downstairs. She wrapped her arms around me from behind. Is it bad? It's bad, I said. Howard and Callahan are stealing money, and they're letting kids play on a field that might collapse. What are you going to do? I'm going to burn them down, I said. But we have to be smart. The next morning, I didn't go to work. I went to a computer repair shop in the city, 40 minutes away. I paid cash to have a guy named Crash verify the audio file hadn't been tampered with and create a forensic copy. When I got back to my car, my tire was slashed. I stared at the flat rubber. It was a clean slice. A warning. My phone rang. It was Mr. Howard. Mr. Bennett. His voice was smooth, friendly. Too friendly. I think we got off on the wrong foot yesterday. I think we're on exactly the right foot, I said, unlocking the car door. I know who you are now. Listen, Jack. Can I call you Jack? Olivia is a bright girl. It would be a shame if this misunderstanding affected her college applications. We have a lot of pull with the state university board. Are you threatening my daughter? I'm offering a solution. You bring the phone back, so we can verify the data breach has been contained, and we wipe the slate clean. Olivia gets straight A's. She gets glowing recommendations. Maybe even a scholarship from that technology grant fund. He was trying to buy me with the same stolen money he was talking about on the tape. The arrogance was breathtaking. I'm going to AAA to fix my tire, I said. And then I'm going to the FBI. Local police handle local matters, Jack, Howard said, his voice dropping an octave. And the sheriff thinks illegal wiretapping is a pretty serious felony, especially involving a minor. Good thing I'm not local anymore, I lied. I'm in the city. I hung up. The homecoming game was Friday night. 2 days away. Olivia was a mess. She was pacing her room, clutching the flip phone. Dad, everyone is texting me. Well, calling me. They say there's a rumor I was caught selling drugs. That's what the school is telling people. They're panicking, I told her. They're throwing everything at the wall. I had sent the audio file to the local news station, but they were dragging their feet. They needed corroboration. They were afraid of being sued. Small-town politics ran deep. I needed leverage. I needed to force their hand before Friday night. If 2,000 people packed those bleachers, and Howard was right about the structural integrity, I couldn't wait for the FBI. I drove to the school. It was 4 p.m. Football practice was happening. I walked onto the field. The bleachers loomed high, old concrete and steel that looked sturdy enough to the naked eye. I walked underneath them. The understructure was a maze of crossbeams. I wasn't an engineer, but I knew what rust looked like. And I knew what fresh paint looked like. They had painted over the stress fractures. I could see the cracks spiderwebbing beneath a layer of glossy gray paint that smelled fresh. Hey, I turned. Howard was marching across the grass, flanked by the school resource officer, Officer Miller. You're trespassing, Howard barked. He looked terrible. Bags under his eyes, shirt untucked. Just admiring the architecture, I said. I held up my phone, my own phone, and snapped a picture of the painted-over crack. Officer, escort him off the property, Howard said. Miller put a hand on his belt. Sir, you need to leave. Officer Miller, I said, not moving. Did you get a bonus this year? A nice little bump from the technology fund? Miller paused. His eyes flicked to Howard. I don't know what you're talking about, Miller said, but his voice lacked conviction. I have a recording, I said, loud enough for the football coach nearby to hear, of Howard admitting these bleachers are dangerous. He paid off the inspector. If you kick me out, and this thing collapses on Friday night, you're an accessory to manslaughter. The coach blew his whistle. What did you say? Howard stepped between me and the coach. He's a disgruntled parent, coach. His daughter is in trouble. Ignore him. Show me, the coach said. He was a big man, a legend in the town. He cared about winning, but he cared about his players more. I pulled out the smartphone, Olivia's phone. I hit play. Howard lunged. He actually lunged at me. I sidestepped. Howard scrambled for the phone, desperation making him clumsy. Officer Miller didn't move. He just watched. The audio blasted through the speaker. If you pack 2,000 kids in there, and that support beam gives. The coach's face went stony. The players had stopped running. Silence fell over the field, broken only by the damning voice of the vice principal coming from a device he had tried to steal. Howard stood up, dusting off his knees. He looked at the coach, then at Miller. It's a deepfake, Howard stammered. I.e., you know what these kids can do with computers now. It has the timestamp, I said. And I have the metadata. And I have the email from the inspector verifying the receipt of funds. I checked his public Venmo. He's not smart, Howard. That was a bluff. I didn't have the Venmo. But Howard didn't know that. The coach walked over to the support beam I had been looking at. He took a key from his pocket and scratched at the fresh gray paint. A chunk flaked off, revealing a rusted, severed bolt. The coach turned to Howard. Get off my field. Now wait a minute, coach. Get off my field. The game was canceled. The town was in an uproar. The emergency school board meeting was held on Monday. The gymnasium was packed. Not in the bleachers. Those were taped off with yellow caution tape, but in folding chairs on the basketball court. I sat in the front row with Olivia and Sarah. Olivia held her head high. She had traded the flip phone back for her smartphone, but she wasn't looking at it. She was looking at the board members. Mrs. Callahan was at the podium, trying to salvage her career. We were merely managing a budget crisis, she was saying into the microphone. The funds were reallocated to ensure. You stole money, a parent shouted from the back. Order. The board president banged his gavel. I stood up. I'd like to yield my time to the evidence, I said. I walked to the AV table. The student running the sound system, the kid named Tyler who had lost his phone the year before, gave me a nod. He plugged my laptop into the PA system. I didn't play the whole 45 minutes. I played the highlight reel. The bribery. The safety cover-up. The plan to blame the woke curriculum if the budget shortfall was discovered. Then Tyler put something else on the projector. It wasn't my evidence. It was his. He had recovered his lost files from a cloud backup he hadn't told his parents about. A grainy video played on the big screen. It showed Howard grabbing a student by the collar and shoving him against a locker. The room erupted. Callahan sat down, putting her head in her hands. Howard stood near the exit, looking for a way out, but the exit was blocked by 2 state troopers. I looked at Olivia. She was smiling. A real proud smile. The investigation took 6 months. Howard went to prison for embezzlement and child endangerment. Callahan took a plea deal, testifying against him to keep her pension, though she was barred from education for life. The athletic director was fired. The stadium was condemned. It took 2 years to build a new one, funded by a legitimate bond measure. Olivia didn't get expelled. In fact, she became something of a local legend. The flip phone girl, they called her, even though she was back on an iPhone. But things changed in our house. 6 months after the board meeting, we were sitting at dinner. Olivia's phone buzzed. She ignored it. You can check it, I said. It's okay, she said. It's just TikTok. She took a bite of lasagna, then looked at me. Dad. Yeah. You know when you threatened to give me the flip phone? You said it was a punishment. I remember. It was actually kind of nice, being disconnected for a few days. It made me pay attention. Well, I said, paying attention is what saved a lot of people. I think I want to keep it, she said. The flip phone. For weekends. Is that weird? I smiled. No. That's smart. I reached into my pocket. I pulled out my own smartphone. It was a black mirror, reflecting the ceiling light. I thought about the power it held, to record, to destroy, to save. It wasn't a toy. It was a weapon. And my daughter knew how to use it better than I did. Tell you what, I said. I'll switch to a flip phone on weekends too. Deal, she said. We finished dinner without a single notification pinging. The house was quiet, but it was a good quiet. The kind of quiet that comes when you know the walls are sturdy, the foundation is solid, and there are no secrets hidden behind the trophies on the shelf.